Hello from the Dukascopy TV studio in Geneva. We're talking about energy issues in Europe and more particularly the renewable energy with Mr. Oleg Dzioubinski. He is from the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe. Welcome, Mr. Dzioubinski.
Thank you very much. I appreciate having me here.
Thank you. We have a lot of developments in the energy sector in Europe right now. Can you give us an overview?
Okay, that is a big question. I'm not sure I really can give a full overview, but I'll try to point to the main issues. Of course, during last, I would say, several years and last couple of years in particularly, energy issues became of more importance to European countries. If we are talking about the European Union, the important issues became energy security, first of all, security of supply, and that led to, and also the issues of energy efficiency did not go away in any way. In terms of energy security, one of the important points was diversification of the energy sources, so that would allow to decrease reliance on particular suppliers of energy, particularly in the cases where the market share of those suppliers is too big or it has a monopoly position. An interesting development, a recent development, is in February this year, the European Commission has decided on, it issued a framework document, I can say, on establishing a European Energy Union. And that is really important because it gives, first of all, one of the ideas behind it is to give more power to consumers, for consumers to have more say in terms of choosing energy sources. It will have, the consumers will have more advantages because of increased competitiveness. The idea of having energy being more affordable is part of it. And of course, I think one of the important things behind it is, again, energy security. It also gives a lot to think about to businesses. What is also interesting there, that energy efficiency is now considered by the European Union, as it was called before by the International Energy Agency, the first fuel. So you now look at energy efficiency not just as means to decrease energy consumption, but also as, in fact, one of the almost supply factors to be considered on the same level as you consider any other fuel. And this is true because, in fact, if you decrease the demand, then you don't need as much supply as you needed before. You don't need to build another power station, for example.
And one also other trend is, of course, always renewable energy, right? And you just brought a chart here. Can you a little bit describe what this stands for?
The renewable energy is part of the European Union energy strategy. In its 2020 program, it has a target, and you can see it here, of achieving 20% share of renewables by 2020. In fact, we can see that they might be or might be not on the path to achieving that target, but the trend is pretty clear. From 2004 to 2013, we have an increase in the share of renewables from just above 8% to 15% 2 years ago. And I don't think that is going to change. We have variations from year to year in terms of building new capacity. Let's not forget that for a lot of renewable energy sources, there are subsidies, and they vary from country to country, but also by countries, they vary from year to year. When we had economic crisis, the government coffers didn't have enough money very often to maintain the subsidies at the same level. We know that, for example, solar in Spain went down sharply. New solar power stations and new solar installations because the subsidies went down. However, for many of the renewable energy technologies, they are at the level where they can survive without subsidies. Let's also not forget, if we are talking about subsidies, overall, globally, the amount of subsidies for fossil fuels is close to $550 million, according to the International Energy Agency. For renewable energy, it's around $120 billion for both. So you have more than fourfold amount of subsidies for fossil fuels than for the renewables. So we are talking about the level playing field for different types of energy, and in this case, renewable energy we can consider cleaner energy than fossil fuels. Then, well, let's create that level playing field.
So let us quickly also change for another important aspect of the question of electricity and energy. It's electromobility, and so this is of course a growing trend. So just to wrap it up, when do you think we will see electric cars in our personal future, in our personal lives?
Okay, thank you for this question. I have to admit I'm not an expert on transport, on vehicles in general or electric vehicles. What I know about this is that right now the share of electric vehicles on the road is less than 1%. It is growing, and it is growing again if we compare to what we have seen 2 or 3 years ago. Electric vehicles and hybrids are gaining momentum. They have more and more, we have more and more visibility of them. One simple but probably maybe a little bit interesting example, in the Palais des Nations here in Geneva, where UN is based, we now have installed electric chargers for the electric vehicles that work on solar panels. So it's completely free once it's installed. So staff members that have electric vehicles can come to the Palais in the morning, put their vehicles charging and get them charged back in the evening. But I mean, that's just a small anecdote, if I could say. What we can see with electric vehicles, probably their share will grow. At this point, probably slowly, because there needs to be a real breakthrough in terms of, first of all, batteries. They need to become lighter, they need to hold charge for longer, they need to allow people to drive between charging times for longer. I think the best that they have now is something like 200 kilometers. That's not bad. Also, you need the infrastructure, and it's gaining momentum. It's going on slowly. Whether we'll be all in the electric vehicles in 5-year time, I cannot predict, but probably no. Let's not forget that the internal combustion engines are also improving, and diesel engines are improving, and the car companies don't just stand still in that area as well. The materials for the car bodies, they're changing, they're becoming lighter. So that's all the developments that we see and we hear. And another development that's probably not less important than the rise of the electric vehicles is driverless cars. Those we may see on the roads, I think, sooner than we can imagine today. From what I understand, most of the technological issues have already been solved. Now it's more the issues of proper legislation. And the organization I work for, UN Economic Commission for Europe, actually works in that area. The rules and regulations for road transport, actually that's the place where they are developed and then used both in Europe and all over the world. So that's something that we may become witnesses to quite soon.
So the UN Economic Commission for Europe is really at the forefront of the recent developments in many aspects. Thank you very much, Mr. Oleg Dzioubinski, for being here today.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you.
And thanks for watching. Do make sure to keep clicking back on the Dukascopy TV website for latest updates and exclusive interviews. Have a great day and see you next time.